longevity lifestyle designers. This is Zach here with Secrets of Longevity and Humans.com, as well as martin-kilgour.com. And if my voice sounds a little different today, I'm just getting over a minor irritated throat. I guess my glands feel a little swollen. My immune system is doing the equivalent of showing some invaders on my body some tough love, and I've been surrounded with a lot of sick people lately. Just everyone in my life seems to have something going on, and I've had a little bit of stress myself, and I'm dealing with that accordingly. And so my body has sort of given me this signal that I need to take a little bit of a break and slow down a bit. However, I'm getting back into the swing of things, and I've been really pondering a concept lately that I wanted to share. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't take into accordance in terms of the type of information they let themselves become exposed to. And if you're aware of some of these concepts, it can be very beneficial in terms of what information you allow to penetrate into your psyche and allow to become part of your understanding of specifically the world of health, but it can specifically apply to many other areas of study as well. So this way of perceiving or understanding information is what I break it down to 4 categories, and I keep these things in mind whenever I'm looking at a specific area in health, whether it's exercise or dietary information, and many other aspects of lifestyle. So just to go over the 4, and then I'll go more in depth into them, the 4 ways or things you gotta be aware of and look for when approaching new information is the scientific research behind it. Is it very well accepted in the scientific community? This is a very major one, and a lot of people are demanding to see the science behind things these days. We have more and more a very left-brain culture, and we like the science and the hard evidence, which I think is great. We need a lot of that to expose the practices and philosophies that aren't really grounded in reality. But of course, I do also think this can be taken too far and also misunderstood. I'm not a scientist, but I do know certain things like the way studies are done, who's doing them, the people that fund them. These all come into play in terms of showing whether research is valid or not in the various scientific disciplines. So the other area would be traditional cultures and how they use things and did things. And this is more of an anthropological study. So this would be anyone looking at native traditions, older cultures, specific practices done by ascetics or yogis or Taoists or sages or shamans, all these different sort of more ancient influences. There's people, you can take elements of those and incorporate them, and you can start to look for the harmonies that occur between science and those practices. And then of course the third one I would say is your own personal experience, and I mean this both for yourself but also your first impressions on other people. So if you see someone espousing certain dietary concepts, for instance, yet they're overweight, they appear to have aged faster than normal or at the same rate as someone just doing sort of like a junk food diet, then obviously that person's concepts might not be the most factual or the most real. They might be more coming from a place of wanting to gain acceptance as a person through what they're teaching, and they get this from their students, but really they're not really accomplishing anything for themselves or the health community at large. This is why I believe there's also so much confusion out in the world, specifically in raw food and exercise science. There's just so much like garbage being espoused out there that appeals to people who are wanting a quick fix or the latest craze or whatever that's the newest thing coming down the pipe. And then of course the 4th item on my checklist, you could say, would be the intuitive or instinctual perception of whatever it is you're looking at, or whether it's research or a health philosophy. This is quite similar to number 2, which is your own personal experience, although your own personal experience is more long-term effects of following a certain path of health and what that's done for you, whether it's worked for you. So that was number 2 that I mentioned. But number 4, the instinctual or intuitive approach, which is very right-brained, and it complements the scientific type of research, is the idea that a concept has a certain reaction to us at first, on our first contact with it, or our first application of it in our lives. So my own personal intuition, when I hear scientific research about the benefits of taking tons and tons of phytoestrogens, and I know that phytoestrogens are plant phytochemicals that mimic estrogen in the body, I immediately don't completely embrace that research, because I know that we don't need large amounts of estrogen in our body. Specifically as a male, that doesn't appeal to me and my own being. Now that's just an example, but that can be thought of in most things. Like, perhaps you might be intuitively or instinctually drawn to something, and that means it's a very good thing for you at the time, even if it goes against your current logical belief system that you might be holding on to. So this could be the idea of eating a little bit of animal products. You feel drawn to it, but a large amount of your intellectual knowledge is saying, don't touch that, it's just full of bad things. Yet when you do take it, you feel good, you feel much better than before, and you really don't even have much of a negative reaction to it. Now, of course, your own experience is going to come, which again is number 2, after the long term, when you've been experiencing something that you've been attracted to for a longer period of time to see if it's working for you. So yeah, just to recap, the scientific research is very beneficial. It's good to know the biochemistry of products, foods, exercise protocols, therapies, even psycho-spiritual concepts from different disciplines or scientific psychological research. And of course, the personal experience, like I mentioned, is more of a long-term view of how something's working for you. You don't want to be clenching onto something that is no longer serving you and is actually detrimental to your health from your own experience, even if someone's saying it's fantastic and you should do it for the rest of your life. Then number 3, like I mentioned, was traditional cultures, what people did in the past, what they didn't do, which is actually a pretty key importance too. They didn't consume large amounts of that, so why are we doing that now, and what's the cause of it in our long-term health? And then of course there's the instinctual and intuitive approach, which is, and that's really the right side, whereas the more logical, anthropological, scientific side is the right brain. So both of these categories could almost like link up to each side of the brain in terms of creating whole brain functioning, which leads to a more holistic approach to discerning what you incorporate into your lifestyle. Now the reason I'm explaining this is because I'm going to be touching on some things in future videos in the short term that you need to be aware of these concepts so that you can understand where I'm coming from. And I'm not saying this is the only way to approach information, but I'm just sharing this just to see if you can get any benefit from it. I think it's pretty obvious that you understand that whenever any one of these areas is overemphasized, it leads to imbalance in a person's approach to a health philosophy or belief system or approach on life. And I hope you've enjoyed this little segment of my thoughts as I'm pondering on this.